All right, I spent a long time going over the Hellboy comics, which you can watch over here. But if you really want to watch it, you got to click over here, I think. That video is pretty exclusively about the comics. But yeah, I know there's movies. What about the movies? Look, the movies are great. I really like the movies. Guillermo del Toro is a master. Ron Perlman was born to play the role. The makeup is incredible. They are wonderful, dark fantasy superhero films that communicate the broad strokes of the Hellboy mythos, while the second movie gets even deeper into the conflict of identity central to the Hellboy character. Are we on the same page, Del Toro fans? I like these movies a lot. They're good movies. I like them a lot. But what we have here is a Shining situation. The Shining is one of the best horror movies ever made, one of the best Stephen King adaptations.
You can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not gonna happen with me.
Not so much. The Hellboy movies are great, but they are not great Hellboy adaptations. I'm not here to go over the history of the movie's production, and whose vision this, and studio pressure that. I'm looking at the movies as they are, compared to the comics as they are. And as they are, the movies have a completely different tone than the comics.
You came along, just like a star, and brightened my day.
Which again, that's fine. If it ends up being a good movie, hey, it's all good. But I love the comics, and as a Hellboy comics fan, I can't help pointing out what liberties were taken with the property. What was mostly lost in the adaptation was tone, the feeling.
Damn. She took his picture.
And it's three major decisions the movies made that took it far, far away from what Mignola created. First off, too much of the Hellboy movie takes place in an urban setting. The BPRD is in New Jersey, the troll market featured in the Golden Army is accessed under the Brooklyn Bridge. Mike Mignola has always hated drawing anything having to do with modern civilization.
Didn't have an airplane, or didn't have a car, it didn't have all these things I dreaded when you were working with a writer. You know, you'd get a script and be like, oh, I don't want to draw that, or I don't know how to draw that.
Hellboy should be exclusively relegated to castles, old manors, caverns, and catacombs. Hellboy's world is the old world. His surroundings should be ancient, or at the very least historical. Seeing him cross busy metropolitan streets is weird.
I know, I'm ugly.
But I think I know why they made so much of the movies take place in New York, New Jersey, and Brooklyn. And that's what I call the Men in Black effect. Again, I have no idea what went into the production of the Hellboy movies, but it feels like Men in Black had a lot to do with it. Studios often look to other successful movies for precedent. That's where you get this old chestnut. It's Jaws, but in the desert. It's Aliens, but with demons. It's Die Hard, but in a building. It kind of feels like Hellboy was pitched as it's Men in Black, but with demons and monsters. So what does that get you? It gets you huge Area 51 style underground headquarters and secret conspiracies that must be kept from the public.
There is no such thing.
Which is fine. I understand why they went this way, and it works. But the comics are so much less dramatic about the existence of Hellboy. In fact, it's the opposite. Everyone knows who Hellboy is because he's been in the public eye for years. He walks around in broad daylight without an escort or disguise or anything. Hellboy has just always been a thing since World War II. No big deal. Sweet old ladies call him Mr. Boy. In the comics, BPRD headquarters is just a normal-ass building with normal-ass furniture and normal-ass file cabinets. But all this Hellboy nonsense, it's too f***ing weird for general audiences, right? So yes, it's all secret, and we are given a shitty POV character in Agent Myers to ease us into the strange world that nobody knows about because, hey, it worked in Men in Black, didn't it?
Hellboy.
You guys get along all right? All right, I'm in.
The last decision that separates the movies from the comics in a major way is the decision to make Hellboy a teenager.
Professor Broom had him grounded.
Grounded?
Even though he's middle-aged by human standards, in the movie he's impatient, he's sulky, and he's emotional.
Glasses. You're my hero.
The first Hellboy movie is a coming-of-age story, and the comics are anything but. The conflict in the comics is a grown man's conflict. It's existential. What is my worth? Have I done everything wrong up until this point? But that shit's hard to do, dude.
Impossible, dude!
Easier to do the time-tested coming-of-age angle that everyone understands. In the comics, Hellboy is more reserved. He wears the weight of years of experience and responsibility. He doesn't tease or make fun as much as the movie Hellboy.
Man, you're gonna need some heavy fiber to move that out.
In fact, he's the one telling bad guys they talk too much. The movie conveys experience, but it does it through the confidence and bravado of a young man. All of this adds up to movies that are less horror and more pulp adventure. The Hellboy movies have more in common with superhero movies than with monster movies. And again, this makes sense. Horror is a dirty word when it comes to big studio productions. All right, final words. Remember when I said I liked the Hellboy movies a lot? Okay? Keep that in your head. When it was announced that a new Hellboy movie was going to development, but without Del Toro or Ron Perlman, the internet was kinda shitty about it. I get that Del Toro is an Oscar-winning visionary. I mean, I get it, he had somebody f*** a fish, everybody was really into it. I would have also loved to have seen him do a third movie. The reality is that for how much that would have cost versus how much the movie's made, it doesn't make sense for a studio to go another round with Del Toro. So we could have nothing again ever, or someone else can give Hellboy a whirl with a smaller budget. I'm sorry, but I can't help being a little defensive about the reaction to the movie news. Fans swear that Del Toro's work is the end-all be-all for Hellboy. What about the guy who created it? What if the Hellboy comics are better comic books than the movies are movies? They are. What if there's a vested interest not in getting some director's vision up on screen, but getting Mignola's vision up on screen? Personally, everything I've heard about the upcoming movie has me excited. Neil Marshall is solid. The Descent is one of the best horror movies ever made. His Game of Thrones episodes are especially indicative of what he could bring to a Hellboy movie. The R rating says this time they're making a horror movie. Yes, Ron Perlman was perfect, but man, David Harbour's pretty damn good casting. Of course, it might all be terrible, but as a massive Hellboy comic book fan, I would love to see a film that's really interested in bringing Mignola's vision to the screen. Movies are more popular than comics, I get that, but that doesn't mean that they're any more important.
No, let me tell you. I know what's important.